Let's talk about food. I have a tendency during missions to stick with the easiest food source available, which usually means just grabbing what I can from plants along the way, hunting and cooking up the meat, maybe fishing, but I rarely ever do that. But the truth is, there are a lot of good food options in Icarus, and that's what we're going to be checking out today. Most of the ingredients that you need can be found in their entirety in either the forest biome or the riverlands biome. There are some exceptions, such as squash can only be found in the desert, and mushrooms can only be found in caves in either of the two snow biomes, and corn can only be found in the forest biome. Animals can be found in any biome, and fish generally can only be found in large bodies of water. Most foods can be consumed in their raw state. However, they usually have some sort of a debuff associated with that, the exception being berries and watermelon, maybe a couple other things too, so you always have that option. Honestly, there are plenty of missions that you can get by just fine with these basic ingredients and not have to go any further than that. But that's not why you're here. So let's talk about farming. In the crafting bench, we can take wood and sulfur and make crop plots. Crop plots allow us to grow food ourselves rather than having to go out and find it on the map. Different plants have varying growth cycles, so you just want to be aware of that so that you don't lose food to rot if you're not around to harvest. Any plant that can be picked in the wild can also be grown in a crop plot. This includes non-directly edible items such as wheat or yeast or lilies. Just be aware that some plants, such as wheat, don't really yield that much when grown in crop plots, so you're better off just going and harvesting it in the wild. Harvesting these non-food ingredients by hand is not much more effective, so I recommend carrying around a sickle with you. Even the basic bone sickle will give you much more than you'd otherwise get. Like with wheat, when you pick it by hand, you get 4 or 5, but with a sickle, you end up getting 30 or more. It's worth noting, the sickle can only be used with these types of materials. It doesn't work with vegetables, so you can't get more from, say, pumpkins or berries. Crop plots have a mechanism by which they can be affected by direct access to sunlight or whether or not they're in a greenhouse. Crop plots that are placed outside in direct sunlight will grow at their standard base rate. If you put a crop plot inside of a greenhouse and give it the greenhouse effect, crops will grow twice as fast. And if you put a crop plot in complete darkness, it'll then take twice as long for any plant to grow. You don't have to surround crop plots with glass in order for it to have a greenhouse effect. It just needs to be within 5 tiles of a single glass building piece. That could be a wall or even just a glass beam, but I wouldn't count on that staying like that forever. Now that we have our raw ingredients, our vegetables, and our meat, we kind of need a place to be able to keep these things from going bad. So this leads us to the ice box, which can be found in the crafting bench. As the name implies, this is a storage container that we can fill with ice to prevent food items from spoiling. You'll need to take a trip to either one of the snow biomes where you can collect ice by hand. There's unfortunately no quicker way of doing this. Ice will melt slowly over time, as one would expect, but a stack of 30 to 50 will last you a pretty long time. The only other option for preserving food is to make a refrigerator, but that's a ways off, and aside from looking good, it may or may not be worth it. Also, it requires power, so you'd have to build a biofuel generator. Now that we've covered that, let's start working our way through the various cooking benches. New benches become available with each new tier of technology. So to begin with, you'll only have access to the recipes that you can find in the campfire. The same recipes can also be found within the fire pit and the fireplace. The cooking station and the Potbelly Stove can both be crafted in the Tier 2 crafting bench, and the kitchen bench and the Biofuel Stove can both be crafted in the Tier 3 machining bench. But let's start with the basics. The campfire will show you a list of all the recipes it's capable of making. These items will cook in order from left to right, top to bottom. So that means that meat will always cook before fish, which will always cook before flatbread, and so on and so forth. This is why if you put meat into the fire and pumpkins, that is always going to revert back to the meat. There's no way to switch that around and cook it in the order that you want it to. This methodology applies to every other cooking bench as well. The recipes in the campfire are single ingredient items and offer moderate benefits, usually additional health or additional stamina. Cooked fish has the benefit of giving you plus 20% stamina regeneration. Cooked meat gives you plus 20% health regeneration, so there's definitely a place for these items. It's also worth noting that cooked meat will heal you for 20 HP, with every single one, making this a way easier solution for healing yourself than going through the process of making health paste. In the cooking station, we start seeing recipes that require 2 ingredients. All of these recipes offer an improvement in the buffs they provide over what you can make in just the basic fireplace recipes. The buffs also will last longer, generally by about 5 minutes. The downside to this is that the food generally decays at a quicker rate than the countdown timer on the buff. So if you don't happen to have a place to store the meals, you are going to lose a few of them to spoilage. It's not really that big of a deal. They're generally easy enough to craft and replace, so I wouldn't worry too much about it if you don't happen to have an icebox yet. The cooking station also allows you to turn raw meat into animal fat, which is used in several other recipes in the various cooking benches. Creamed corn is the first recipe that we come across that requires water in order to make it. Having an animal skin, a glass jar, or the canteen from the workshop are all suitable for this. You just need to make sure to take that and put it into the bench's inventory in order to cook that recipe. Up next, we have the Potbelly Stove. The stove requires some sort of fuel source, be it coal or wood, for example, in order to operate. Here, the recipes have more and/or better buffs. As you would expect, the recipes now require more ingredients. The duration of the buffs are also improved. The kitchen bench allows us to craft beer and wine, as well as pickled carrots and berry jam. And this is where things get a little more complicated, because it requires an extra step. In order to craft these things, we need to have glass containers. For that, you'll need a glass working bench, which can be found in the machining bench. You'll also need to smelt down silica in a furnace. Neither beer or wine will stack in your inventory, but the jarred items will, so just be aware of that. We can now also craft bread dough and pastry, which are both used in the next cooking bench, the Biofuel Stove. In order to make bread, though, we need to use a mortar and pestle to turn wheat into flour. The conversion is like 10-to-1, so it takes a lot of wheat, which is another reason why I suggested using a sickle earlier to harvest wheat, rather than doing it by hand. On a side note, jumping back to the Campfire Recipes, you also need flour in order to create flatbread dough, which is done in an herbalism bench. Then you can make flatbread in the Campfire. The Biofuel Stove offers up recipes with some of the best benefits of any of the foods that you can craft, but understandably requires more ingredients, although this isn't the case for every single recipe. Regular bread is just cooked bread dough, and pumpkin bread is only 2 ingredients, bread dough and pumpkin. As the name implies, the Biofuel Stove requires biofuel, so you'll also need to make a composter and at least 1 biofuel can in order to operate it. Honorable mention goes to the beverages that can be crafted. Can only do this in a campfire or fire pit or fireplace. I personally don't find them to be that useful. It takes more time than it's worth in order to collect the resources necessary to make any one of these beverages. It takes 50 of each of them, so 50 tea leaves or 50 coffee beans. And it's not like it can't be done. It's just time consuming based on the benefit that you get. One nice thing is that beverages don't take up a food slot, so that does provide 1 extra buff, but it's only 900 seconds and it's a single-use item. And that's my biggest complaint with it, really. That and the fact that you can't put it into the water slot of your EnviroSuit like you can with a canteen. If that were changed up, I would find it far more useful and probably worth pursuing. With maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, no recipe is identical to another one in terms of the buffs that it offers up. What foods you choose to cook depend entirely upon your playstyle and what you're looking to achieve. If you wanted to prioritize having a bunch of health, then you could do a combination of fish curry, meat pie, and stew for an additional 600 health. If you wanted to earn an additional 35% experience for every action, you could combine pumpkin bread, regular bread, and crumbed fish fillet. Or let's say that you wanted to be a stamina regen monster, you could use beer and wine and flatbread for 300% stamina regen. There are so many different combinations of food that you could choose. I'd love to hear what your favorite food combinations are. Leave them in the comments below. I hope this video has been useful and has made you more likely to engage with this aspect of the game. If so, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future content. Also, I stream at least 4 days a week on Twitch, link below, so come on by and say hello. I'll see you next time.